And welcome to the Barry Foster Show on YouTube, originating from the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. I'd like to remind you that if you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for the programs, things you'd like us to talk about, or people you'd like us to talk with, just you put it in the comments below. If you'd like to become an advertiser, just drop us a line at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com. And remember, check out the YouTube page here at the Barry Foster Show each and every weekday, as we'll be putting up something new regularly. And if you would subscribe to our YouTube page and join our pages at the Barry Foster Show on Facebook and Instagram, that would also be very helpful. Joining me in the studio this morning, John Larsen.
Good morning.
And we spent no small amount of time Saturday out at the Military Sea Services Museum in beautiful Sebring.
Yes, we did.
That was a good time. Had a chance to tour the museum, which I did not realize is the only museum in America honoring the military sea services, including the Navy, the Marines, and the Coast Guard. Mm-hmm. And I think Merchant Marines, too. I think that's part of it.
Yep. So, and whatnot. And I thought Fred Carino, who runs the organization out there, I thought he did a really good job. He was running around like the Energizer Bunny, trying to make sure everything was ready to go, up, running, and so on. So, he did a great job, and I think people need to commend him because he obviously put a lot of work in before the event, during the event, and I'm sure after the event.
We had a good time. We had a chance to interview Fred.
Yes.
And also John Vincent.
Yes.
And we're going to get a third microphone, so
yeah.
you can be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot doing this, and the next time we're going to do an actual show there. Mm-hmm. In addition to, we'll have someone to fetch our guests up for us and do it just like we used to do in the old days.
Yeah, because I thought there were a lot of, just ordinary folks that were there. Mm-hmm. It might be interesting. I'm sure a lot of them have some, especially the ones in the military and have served overseas or served in battle, have an awful lot of stories they could tell if they want to.
Yeah, they had the current president and a gal who was just going into the Navy used the sword mm-hmm. to cut the cake.
Yes.
And he was quite impressed with. He said they didn't look like that back when I was in the Navy.
No, I think she'd make a good recruiting poster.
Oh my!
Okay? A very nice young lady. Said she was 20 years old mm-hmm. and going in the Navy, and so on. So good luck to her, and I'm sure that it's going to work out well.
If you've never been, they're open Wednesday through Saturday, noon to 4. They have guided tours or unguided tours. They list their address as 1402 Roseland Avenue if you're putting it in your Waze or your GPS or whatever. But I can tell you it's the corner of Roseland and Kenilworth Boulevard, just up the street from the Supervisor of Elections office.
Well, he told us a lot during his interview, and I didn't know any of this. Number one, I was amazed at how big that building is inside. Mm-hmm. From the outside, it doesn't look it. But when you get inside, there's a little conference room where they have tables and chairs set up for meetings, and just the displays that are there. I thought it really was kind of an amazing fixture. And the lady that was in the tent next to us there, she was signing up members, and she corralled me.
Yeah, Gloria was relentless, man.
And got me to sign up as a member of the Sea Service Museum. So I look forward to maybe being out there a time or two and being part of maybe some of their functions.
And we went out representing the Barry Foster Show and the Highlands Tea Party. Mm-hmm. We gave away a bunch of brochures. I had more than one guy pick up a Constitution and wave it at me. He says, I have a copy of this at home. Mm-hmm. And we said, well, take a copy and give it to a friend.
Right.
But it was nice to have them stop by. I think we made a lot of good contacts.
Oh, yeah, I do too. And we have to thank Dale Flug for all of those little brochures
yes.
and hand out the constitutions and that he had, because he was in the midst. I think he's now fully moved from his home into another location, he and his wife. And he had all of those, and he said, John, my new location does not allow me to keep all this.
Oh, no.
So, and because I even offered to give him some copies of the Epic Times the other day, and he said, John, I don't have room for that right now. Let me get organized, then I'll take some.
Well, we've just inherited some storage space.
Yes,
at the Vietnam Veterans Hall, and we're
yes.
going to be giving away Constitutions, Tea Party primers, copies of the 5,000 Year Leap, old copies of the Epic Times, mm-hmm. which, like like the Heartland Herald, a lot of it's kind of evergreen. It lasts forever.
Yep.
So
yeah, and so on. So I thought, but Fred's story when he started talking about the Sea Service Museum and the history of it going way back even prior to its existence, but the fact that the location and where it's located, that the houses that are in there were built for the military people that were serving out at the base at the bombing range.
Out at Hendricks Field,
and whatnot, and he told us that the houses out there were built in 1941, and I assume some of them are still in existence,
and they're being used. And the building that the Military Sea Services Museum was in the administration office, but it's been added on to since they opened it up. But and right across the street is a little grocery mart, which was at that time the PX. So it still has its history, and it's nice to see that's being preserved even with new uses.
Right, and so on. So the whole history factor of it, and then, like he said, the cannon they have out front came from, was it Barbados?
Barbados from 1602, something like that.
And so on. So you talk about antiquities and all the antiques and other memorabilia that he's collected over the years, or people that have given to the museum. It's quite amazing.
Yes.
And so on, to have some of that historical stuff around still today that people have and have willed it or given it to Fred for the museum. And he has so much that he said he has to recycle what they have on display.
A lot of military museums are like this, where they have rotating displays because they just have so much stuff.
Yep.
And people have donated. They said, they have a great number of uniforms there, and they've gotten some mannequins to put the uniforms on and such. It's really it's an interesting, and the best part is it's free.
It's free.
You can donate as much as you want. Fred won't gold bars, whatever you want to put in the donation, they'll take it. But I think that they have all the docents they need, but they have docents who bone up on everything that's in there. So if you take a guided tour, especially if you take a homeschool class, I think there was a couple of ladies that came through with a bunch of young girls, and I think that was either a Girl Scout troop or a homeschool class that came in. So they wanted, because we were set up there, the Military Officers Association was there, the Medal of Honor Park was set up there, Disabled American Veterans were set up there, we were set up there. They had a nice band, a band called by the name of Ransom came in and played. So it was, and we only had a little kind of a Methodist baptism, a little sprinkle, and it was over.
Yeah, and I thought that Fred did a great job. I'm hoping he does it again next year.
Oh yeah,
and maybe it'll even be bigger than this year.
And we'll do a real show next time. I've decided we're going to be looking for venues, and you and I are going to do at least an hour show, and we're going to find a runner to go bring our guests. We'll get an extra mic. And the recording this time was so much better.
Oh, yeah.
This is a work in progress. We're learning as we go along, and but there's one thing we got to talk about that I did not realize, that you had a wonderful experience at the Walmart. Now I know you go shopping there on a regular basis.
Early Friday morning.
If you go long enough, you'll see something.
I'm up early Friday morning, and I go there for one reason. I want to get in and get my stuff and then leave and let the rest of the day belong to the people that go there. But I was in there Friday morning, and there's only 2 checkout lanes, and the lane next to me, there was a couple there. I didn't recognize them at all, but I thought, they were carrying on a conversation with the woman, and they had some writing and that on the back of their shirts and whatever, and I assume that they were somebody that was in their rescue mission of pets and animals and that they collect. But anyhow, the lady in a canvas bag over her shoulder pulled out a live armadillo, and I thought, well, this is kind of 6:30 in the morning. This is kind of different, okay.
Everybody's got to have a hobby.
That's right, and so on. So that was, you see these videos that, strange things that happen in Walmart, and coming in with a live armadillo was strange and whatnot. But hey, that's okay, and that's fine.
There's a great web page.
Didn't hurt anybody.
There's a great web page for that called Walmartians.
Yeah.
Okay, and they you should have took a picture of the lady with the armadillo, because you pointed this out, and it's true. When I first moved to Florida, you saw armadillos a lot.
Yes.
Both in the wild and on the road where they didn't quite make it across the road.
Nope.
But they have really, I can't tell you the last time I actually saw, we used to get them in our yard.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see where they were rooting in our yard.
Yep.
Or, sometimes you go out, take out the trash at night, and you'd see them kind of stumbling. They're blind. And I try to keep them a wide berth because, as I understand it, they carry leprosy. So we kind of stay away from each other. But it's been a long time since I've seen an armadillo.
Yeah, no, they're far and few between today compared to my first venture down to Florida was 35, 40 years ago, whatever, my wife and I on a little vacation, and we would see all kinds of armadillos because we were driving down 75 and they were like almost everywhere on the highway. And there were some that didn't quite make it. They were pancake armadillos, but then there were regular armadillos and so on. So, yeah, it's something that, and I think as construction has consumed the state of Florida over the last 40, 50 years, that their habitat has been pretty well obliterated. Yeah. For all animals, really, all wild animals.
That's why we see wild bears now in residential areas, that kind of thing.
Yep, because their place where they can roam and be free has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. In a lot of cases, it totally disappeared. So unless they move on to another location, another wooded area, they're going to become some kind of a casualty.
Well, even as we speak, and we're recording this on Monday morning, but there's now apparently a lasting peace in the Middle East. The hostages are coming home, and President Trump has gone to Tel Aviv and I think it may be over by now, was making a speech to the Knesset.
I saw the whole thing this morning, and it was an hour long, as it is with Donald. He gets going. But the one thing, I watched the whole thing, and you have to me anyhow, you have to love Donald Trump because he has a way that he can jab you, okay, and kind of poke fun at you, but then at the same time be serious with what he's saying. And he has that innate sense of being able to do that. And he pointed out, he said some comical things about Netanyahu and some of the other dignitaries that were there, but he also made his point about the lasting peace. And a lot of people, the people that hate Donald Trump just because he's Donald Trump. But I mean, the thing of it is, the man has done so much to try and bring about world peace. And he said the last one that he's got now to try and fix is with Russia.
Which he thought would be the easiest one.
Yes, and I know he's disappointed that he hasn't been able to convince, Putin to, hey, put down your guns and let's just settle this thing. Killing innocent victims, destroying innocent infrastructure. What does that prove? It doesn't prove anything. It proves that you're Putin, but what does it prove? It doesn't do anything for the world.
Well, Donald Trump, and you talked about poking his adversaries. He said that this peace could have been done a long time ago, but he placed the blame directly on Obama and Biden, which many people think the Biden administration was actually run by Obama with the guy who just let him use the auto pen. Yeah. But all that being said is that that Bibi Netanyahu went and tried to convince Obama not to sign the Iranian nuclear deal, and he said you might as well have been talking to a wall. He couldn't get him done. He said they had a choice between peace and this nuclear deal, and they went with the nuclear deal, and it was the B-52s, not the rock and roll band, but the actual B-52s went in and flattened that place. And he says, and now this was, you talk about how he can say things in a humorous way.
Yep.
He says, Iran wants to make a deal. They don't think they want to make a deal, but he says, I've been making deals my whole life. I'm really good at it. It's the way he is. He says, Iran doesn't know they want to make a deal, but they want to make a deal.
The funny part of it is, I think when he talks like that, the people that hate Trump, all right, look at it like, well, he's on an ego trip. But really, okay, maybe he does pound his chest time and again.
Sure.
But the thing of it is, he's looking for results. And he doesn't care how he gets results, as long as he gets results and settles these wars or conflicts or whatever around the world. And slowly but surely, he's been able to check them off this time in his presidency. So I think he's done a marvelous job.
I think you and I grew up with people who are idiosyncratic, who really think they're the best. Like, who thinks there's the best lovers, the Italians or the French? Okay, we're going to talk about this probably tomorrow. But there was some guys that came in talking about growing coffee in Highlands County, and Luis Ferraro was one of the guys who's Brazilian. And there's just no question that Brazilians have the best coffee. There's no discussion about that. And when we grew up, everything was bigger in Texas. And there was a whole long line of jokes about things that were bigger in Texas. And Donald Trump is one of these people who embraces the big philosophy that I'm number one. It would have been very much like a guy we remember as Cassius Clay. I'm the greatest, and everything with Donald Trump is the best. They're going to build a ballroom, and we are checking on this. They're going to build a ballroom on the White House. It's going to be the most beautiful ballroom ever. There's been no ballroom ever made like this, and while there is, it was like Limbaugh with his bombast. There was, Trump's able to back it up, and he's done something that no one thought could be done. And I just read something, and I have not had a chance to check it out, but apparently even Hillary Clinton has complimented Donald Trump on this.
I saw that this morning, and my second thought, because with Hillary Clinton, you always have to revert back to who she really is. I just wonder if she isn't cozying up to Donald so she doesn't get one of those citations that says, "We want to interrogate you."
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. But at any rate, it's politics, and there's politics everywhere. I don't care where you are. If you're in church, there's church politics. If you're in the office, there's office politics. If you're in family, there's family politics. In political politics, there's the worst kind of politics. But there's always some kind of jockeying around going on. And the people who I think are the most unhappy about this are the Antifas. Are the Antifas and the pro-Hamases, because now they, what are they going to protest? Because it looks like things are going to settle down here.
Well, let me tell you, I found something I was looking at this morning, okay, and the crazy people, if you will, are going to have another No King's Day.
Oh, yes.
Protested on October 18th. And, of course, that's an anti-Trump protest,
sure.
Right? So that's going to take place. So they haven't gone away. I think Donald Trump could literally walk on water, and they would still hate Donald Trump for whatever he does, okay? It doesn't matter how many conflicts he may stop, delay, do whatever, like he's, doing now in Israel. But I think there's the hatred for him is, I don't understand it. There's a lot of people that I may not like, but I don't let that consume my life with hatred.
Well, the thing is, I saw this Venn diagram, and that's where they put circles down, and where the circles intersect, that makes something happen. And in this Venn diagram, it shows Antifa, then BLM, then the pro-Hamas movement, and where all three of the circles intersect, it says Democrat Party. And what has happened is they have, for whatever reason or however it's happened, have allowed the radical element to overtake their more moderate stances. Like, we've watched them moving to the left for years. And now you have Chuck Schumer, who is, I think, individually responsible for the government shutdown.
Oh, yeah.
He is the reason he's doing it, because the squad and the AOC and all those people are so loud, and they have the attention of the media. Apparently, he is the news stories that we see say that he is afraid of being challenged by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who embodies the leftist movement, and so they're capitulating to them rather than fighting them and pushing them back. And I'm wondering, do they think that there's not enough moderate Democrats around to push back on that?
There's not. There's really not. I mean, it's been the party, the hierarchy of the party has been consumed by the radical left.
Yes.
The socialists / communists, whatever group you want to put in there, they've been consumed by it and taken over the party. And that's why I can't believe that Democrats are as unbelievably against policing, for crime, all right, against putting bad guys in jail. I mean, that just makes no sense. I don't care what political party you belong to. why would you be in favor of allowing criminals to stay out on the street? And some of these sentences that are being imposed now by some of these radical judges are just off the chart. They're allowing murderers to get back out on the street almost immediately.
Without bail.
Yes.
But the thing is this government shutdown, not paying the military, is very much the same as defunding the police because, public safety is what government's for, okay? Police, fire, ambulance. After that, there's a few things maybe that they need to be involved with, here in Highlands County, I would say landfill. I have no problem with that. But really, public safety, the sheriff's office, and the EMT, firefighters, the public safety. And as a nation, we need to have our military. But the thing is, Donald Trump, and I've heard it described, I've heard 3-level chess. They say he plays 5-level chess. And he's probably already decided that if this happened, how is he going to take care of things? And he has found a way for Pete Hegseth to pay the military. I don't know how long that's going to last, but, and you have Chuck Schumer saying things that are counterintuitive. He says, the quote that I heard him say was that the longer this lasts, the better it is for us. And it does not. It seems to be exactly the opposite. That people want the government to work, and they want. And Donald Trump doesn't. The reason he doesn't like war is it's bad for business. He's a businessman. And somebody the other day said to me, "You know what the problem is with Congress, Barry?" I said, "No. What is the problem with Congress?" He says, "There's too many lawyers." He says, "We need business people in there."
Amen.
He said, we need people who know how to run a country the way. And for years, I heard many county commission candidates say, "Well, I'd run this the way I run a business." Well, that's not the way government works. It should be the way government works.
Well, it's really amazing when you look at it because the what's happened within the Democratic Party. I mean, you just take a look at it. They were not. I mean, if you go back, I don't know, 30 years ago, let's say. They were supposedly the party of the working man.
Yes.
Okay, they were pro-union, party of the working man. Okay, we stand up for the working man, and the Republicans were painted as the party of the rich. That has really flipped. That has flipped
Absolutely.
Almost 180 degrees.
Absolutely.
The Republican Party now is the party. Donald Trump has made it the party of the working man. He's done that, not the Bushes, not any of the other Republicans that were in office.
The rhinos.
Donald Trump, yes,
The rhinos.
and so on. So he has really switched that whole thing around, and also the Democrats now have become party of the radical rich. You take the big tech guys, all that. They pour billions in Hollywood. They pour billions of dollars into the Democratic Party. But the working man, they've essentially said, we don't need you anymore. Okay, you're really on the lower rung of status, so we don't need you. We don't need any of your work after whatever. We'll go with our rich friends and the radical left, the very radical left.
Well, and if you look, and this is something I think that Donald Trump is going to take care of. For years, I've been talking about AFSCME, which is the American Federation for State, Federal, and Municipal Employees. I think that's what it is. I may have the initials wrong. But AFSCME is a union for government workers who have the best jobs anywhere, okay?
Yep.
I mean, they make all kinds of money, and already they've laid off more than 4,000 workers. I think more layoffs are coming. Donald Trump is going to take this opportunity to trim back the federal government in much the same way Ronald Reagan did with the air traffic controllers.
Yes, and I think that's been, this is, again, the Democrats, to me, not being able to look beyond the end of their nose about the ramifications of this shutdown. Now you got Hakeem Jeffries out there, pounding his chest and waving whatever and so on, and Chuck Schumer saying the things that he's saying. But in the end, as this thing now creeps into its third week, I believe it is, individual people are going to start being affected now. It's gone on long enough. Their paycheck that they got maybe October 1st is running out. And so now they're going to be impacted personally. And when that happens, you're going to see a lot of people that are going to be picking up the phone and calling their Democratic congressperson and say, what the heck are you doing? You're killing us out here, okay? Forget your ego against Donald Trump. That's all this is. It's a shutdown against Donald Trump. You've got to put this thing back together.
Well, I think it's time for some of the people out there to, and we're heard all across the United States. Because we're on the internet, you can hear us on the space station if you want to. But it's time there's got to be 7 senators that will come across the aisle and help. I would get some people like, if you're listening in Pennsylvania, I know we have some listeners in Pennsylvania, calling John Fetterman and saying, look, we need you to come across and bring some of your friends.
Well,
and because there's no sunshine law in Washington. These guys can talk to each other all day long without regard.
Well, I think Fetterman's in the camp of the, no shutdown, and there were 2 others that joined him at the outset, so I think there's 3. But unfortunately, I thought I heard yesterday that Lisa Murkowski, who's, gosh, awful, horrible Republican person out of Alaska, she needs to go, okay? She absolutely needs to go, because I think she is flipped to the other side now and is for
She's a
the
rhino
shutdown. Yes,
in
has
spades.
So she needs to really go. I don't know how the people of Alaska keep electing her, because she is certainly not a Republican and not a conservative.
Well, the 2 things. People get reelected because they bring home the bacon and they have name recognition, not necessarily in that order, okay? But that's how they get reelected. And there's a move, I think, in the Republican Party now against the rhinos. In fact, later this week, I'm going to have Kathy Chamberlain on, who has written a book called Rules for Rhinos. You may remember her for Rules for Deplorables, which was kind of a parallel book with Rules for Radicals. She took Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, flipped it on its ear, and used it for the America First the America First people to flip it on Democrats. And now she's going after the Democrats in sheep clothing, which are rhinos, Republican in name only. And she's now apparently been excommunicated from her local Republican Party.
Right.
And we're going to talk to her about that.
Yep.
But there's a move now, and I thought this was going to happen 40 years ago. I thought in the 1990s we were going to see a realignment of the parties. It would have been the first time in more than 100 years. I think it now, under Donald Trump, may be coming where the parties somehow realign, where the moderate Democrats and the Rhino Republicans get together, and the American Firsters end up where the Republicans are now, and the Democrats end up being more amenable. They're not quite so socialist / communist oriented.
Well, I think if they continue to lose, and that I do not take the Republican Party for granted as far as what they do, but if the Democrats continue to lose positions, even on a local level, they're going to see the numbers. At some point, if they have any sense at all, they're going to have to get together and sit down and say, we are committing political suicide with what we're doing. And they are. In fact, they are doing that, and so on. So we'll see what happens, but sometime you have to see the light of day, and I don't think they've seen it yet.
Well, the great Chinese general Sun Tzu, who fought back in, I think around the 3-digit numbers, on the 600s, 800s, he wrote a great book called The Art of War, and one of his sayings is, never tell the enemy when they're making a mistake. And we see right now the Democrats headed towards radicalization. I mean, you got this guy, Jay Jones, who's running for Attorney General in Virginia, who has called for political assassinations.
Yep.
And there's no Democrat disavowing that and saying, no, we don't. He doesn't speak for us. And there's nobody saying he should. Can you imagine if a Republican was saying the same things that this Jay Jones is saying? It would be all over the media. There would be calls. That we see Kathy Chamberlain being excommunicated for writing a book. For writing a book that really kind of, it's a call to arms for America First candidates to battle for the country. And she's been excommunicated by who? By the rank and file? No. by the rhinos, because here's something that is quote unquote anti-party, which it's not. It's trying to call the party back to its roots, what the Republicans are supposed to be. But we see these. In fact, this Benny Johnson, who was a friend of Charlie Kirk,
Right.
He's what they call a conservative influencer. I believe he was one of Charlie Kirk's lieutenants, if you will. He was somebody who worked with Charlie Kirk. He was a B-lister, and he was there apparently in Utah when this happened, when Charlie Kirk was killed.
There's some other things that came out too. I mean, I saw him do an interview here a while back, and he said, look, he said, I was down and out. I mean, I was like no good. And he somehow connected with Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk picked him up, literally picked him up, okay, and gave him some meaning and gave him something to work for. And he said, that's what turned my life around. And ever since then, he's been on the move, on the go, speaking out and speaking up about all of these things.
Well, yeah, there are several kids that I'm seeing now that are going to campus, and they're preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. And there are other people who are preaching conservative political philosophy and also the gospel. And you're seeing these other kids come and filling the gap. But because Charlie Kirk, the more you watch, the more I stand amazed at how much he knows about the Bible, or how much he knew about the Bible,
Right.
how much he knew about the founders, how much he knew about what this Israeli situation. I mean, when you go down through everything he read a lot. I read a lot, but I don't have nearly the retention that he had. And so you're getting these people, and now the left is they're really becoming the party of violence.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And we pointed this out with Antifa and with Black Lives Matter and with these pro-Hamas. And there's another cadre, I've seen maybe a couple, 3, 4 guys now who go to these rallies and begin to pick out the professional protesters. And sometimes they have funny names for them. Sometimes they find out their names. And he goes to interview them, and they blow a kazoo and hold a sign in front of his face. And they do exactly the opposite of what Kirk was trying to do. Charlie Kirk would go in and talk to the people who disagreed with him, okay? And said, when we stop talking, that's when the violence begins. So he would go in and engage. They didn't like what he said, but at least he would, and he talked in a rational manner. There was not a lot of harsh words exchanged, and he would eat a lot of that. And so that's, I think, somebody said that we're Charlie Kirk for old people, which may be true. Because John and I are starting to go out. We did a couple of live ones at the Tea Party. We did the Military Sea Services Museum. The temperatures are beginning to drop somewhat, and we're getting into the outdoor festival time of year, and we're going to see if we can do some more live things where we can engage people in conversation and talk about these things, because we need to bring the country back together, because there's many of our adversaries. Don't you think the Chinese love it when the military is not getting paid?
Sure. They love everything that's is really a negative for the country. They love the idea of the shutdown. I mean, it works right. It works for them, and so on. So the other thing I want to mention, too, talking about Charlie Kirk, but
Yes.
Megyn Kelly has come out and said she's on a tour now. She's going to go out and speak, and I think it's totally because of what happened with Charlie Kirk. Because she was pretty good friends with Charlie Kirk. He'd been on her show a number of times. And so they had connected a number of times. And I think she really felt when this happened, it really affected her. And I think she said, as one of those, I'm going to pick up the mantle of voice and go out and speak. And she said, I don't care where I go. I don't care who's there. She said, I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter. And so on. So, I mean, and I think you're going to see others like her that are going to do the same thing. They want to come out and say, look, we need to carry the voice of Charlie Kirk forward. We can't let that voice die. It's just going to be a different kind of a voice, but it's going to be the same message. And I think there'll never be, I don't think, another Charlie Kirk. There'll never be another one. He was a very unique individual, but there are people that I think are going to go out there and try and make the effort to keep the message going.
Just like there'll never be another Limbaugh.
No.
I mean, he had his own brand, and but I think other people will rise to the surface that will help begin. We see some very young people. This Brillen, I can't remember his last name. It'll come to me in a minute. But he's 18. He is the same age when Charlie Kirk started. He's starting the same kind of things, and he's a tall, thin, good-looking kid, and he's bringing it forward. And some of the people like Megyn Kelly, who already have names, are bringing this kind of thing forward, and it is a more engaging conservatism, that when they bring this kind of thing together. But the thing is that we cannot allow ourselves to be weak. There's a guy that we both listen to, Victor Davis Hanson,
Amen.
Who is out of California, and he is our age. And one thing he talked about, and I heard him the other day, talking about the beginning of World War II and the attack on Pearl Harbor, and he said that the Japanese had been taken over because as the Germans took over Europe, a lot of the possessions that the Europeans had, French Indochina, and had been controlled by these European countries, had gone away because they weren't in charge of those countries anymore. The people who lived in France and in Germany, they weren't in charge of those things anymore. And so the Japanese began taking over, and Yamamoto, the great admiral, had gone to Hirohito and said, "Look, the Americans have a very weak military. Okay, their army is no bigger than the army of Portugal. Let us go." He says, "We can get away with this. Let us go and do this now." And I have heard stories, and like I said, I grew up on a steady diet of World War II movies, and you can tell when they were made. But when the Americans first started, they didn't have anything. The soldiers were training with wooden guns. And out here at the bombing range, they were using model airplanes to shoot down because they didn't have real airplanes to practice on. And so they were using model airplanes to approximate being able to hit a small target far away. And so they had nothing. And that's when the men were all sent to war, and you had Rosie the Riveter put in there, and the Americans sprung into action. But it took them the better part of 2 years and there's a famous Robin Williams movie called Toys, where they took over a toy factory to begin making bombs because it had the ability to take and make the kinds of shells that they needed, metal shells. They just changed from model cars to small armaments, So we are in a situation now where previous administrations have allowed the military to get small, and we have now, Pete Hegseth came up and said that we have now reached the goal for enlistment for the entire year already, and we still have 3 months left. 3 months left.
And it's a good thing, technologically, it's a good thing, I believe, that the art of war has changed dramatically from what it was back in the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's all mechanized today. You got drones that do just about everything and so on. So I think but if we had to, let's say we had to go to war tomorrow for some reason, some ungodly reason, we would be hard-fixed to be able to arm ourselves with what we need. Two things have happened. Joe Biden literally gave away a lot of the ammo, various types of ammo that we had in this country to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. That was one of it. We've lost our technology because most of the electronics and that are used in our weapons today are made in China. So, we've got a major problem there, and I know we're clawing it back little by little.
The truth train.
There we go. Yes, maybe the president's on the back of that train waving at us. Never know. Donald, you're out there.
Heavy, JD.
That's right. Today's Christopher Columbus Day, so that's why everything's so quiet today.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, today because I drove by the bank and I said, "There's no cars there." I drove by another bank. There's no cars there. And then finally I was listening to, I don't know who I was listening. Oh, I was listening to one of the programs on Patriot Radio, and the guy says, today's Christopher Columbus Day. I said, now I know why. Okay.
Trump signed the executive order. He says, we love the Italians.
That's right.
I don't know if he's talking about Amerigo's Vespucci or what, but yeah, it is something that we really need, peace through strength.
Yes.
Peace through strength.
Ronald Reagan.
And when Trump was talking about making a deal, He says, it's not because we have to. He says, because we know they want to. And so he is moving to do that, and they are moving to trim up the government to make our money go further. We talked about the military pay. We talked about moving against the government unions now, and moving to make government leaner and meaner and able to do things that they need to do and move on a moment's notice.
Well, I think the thing that I really believe has hopefully started to consolidate the Arab countries, if you will, in the Middle East, was the bombing of Iran. I think that said to all of these Qatar, all these other countries, wow, they really did it. And if we go crazy, they're going to do it to us. So I think they've all kind of stepped back now and said, this is the first president that had a set of, and really did
a spine,
do what needed to be done. And so they're looking at it now and saying, under Donald Trump, they would do almost anything if they had to preserve peace. And I think they're looking around saying, peace is better than being bombed out.
Well, his Abraham Accords from his first administration maintained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he made good deals.
Right.
And Donald Trump, you can say what you want to about him, and Lord knows people do, but he is able to figure out what both sides want and what he wants, and to be able to come together with a deal that they can live with. Nobody walks away thinking I really made out on this deal. They all walk away with feeling good about what they did. Plus, there's this internal wellspring in the United States. We talked a little bit about this with Charlie Kirk's execution, and they are now going after like this kid that went after Benny Johnson. They were able to go, apparently, find out where the letter was mailed from, found the DNA, found the kid in San Diego, arrested him, and he confessed.
Mm-hmm.
He confessed to this. And they believe that from what he did, he's going to be in jail for about 10 years. He's going to be in jail for a while to maybe, hopefully, come to his senses there. And even now, we've seen this movement by professional sports, and it really happened under the Obama administration, where they began to try to take away sports from us, because sports were where people could come together. I mean, and we've talked about this. You could be a deep blue Democrat. I could be a deep red Republican, but we both love our team.
Mm-hmm.
Pick your team, whoever it is that you love, and you can sit down and you can, as I said, I have a friend who likes sports car racing, okay? And we both love Sebring. He and I are about as far apart politically as you can get. We don't talk about that part. We don't talk about the racing part, okay? And they tried to take that away with kneeling and putting on the black national anthem. And now what they've been doing for years is to bump the numbers on the Super Bowl. They take a halftime show that will draw in people who don't watch football. So they can add those numbers to the Super Bowl, and sometimes it might even double the people that are watching. If you have no interest in, let's say, New York plays Seattle, let's say the both coasts, or you have the game they don't like is like Kansas City versus Detroit, where they have fairly small markets and people aren't really that interested in that. So they bump it by bringing in a halftime show, and apparently now they are going to go for people who really don't listen to watch the football. This guy named Bad Bunny, who I have like no idea who he is,
Nope.
no clue. We're way past the Bad Bunny stage, but the folks from Turning Point have seen this as a great opportunity, and they're going to be putting on an all-American show during halftime, so that if the halftime program comes on, you can turn over and I don't know if they've even scheduled anybody. My guess is Kid Rock is going to be part of this, because he's a red, white, and blue kind of guy. But I think you'll have this Turning Point halftime show, and if I was running it, which I'm not, I would have it go past the end of the start of the third quarter, so they might not go back.
Well, I'll tell you, there's been now a number of pro football players. A.J. Watts, his brother Watts, plays for Pittsburgh. He's a really good linebacker.
Then Mahomes
and whatnot.
also.
And so they've come out and said, look, if he's going to be the halftime show, I'm not playing. He said, if we're in the game, I'm not playing. And I've seen that now. I've seen these video recordings and whatnot from 3 or 4 different noted football players. I'm sorry, but not the guys that sit on
not
the
bench warmers.
No, the guys that are first stringers out there playing. They're just saying, look, we're here to play football. We're not here to terrorize the country with whatever this guy puts forward, and so on. So I think I think in a lot of ways, and I've seen a lot of people. I know people say things on Facebook and all that, but I believe that a lot of people. I don't watch NFL anymore. I don't. I used to watch it. I was religious in watching pro football. But when they came out, like you said, when they came out with the Black Lives Matter stuff years ago, I just said, that's it. I'm done. Because they turned this into a racial thing. It's never been a racial thing. It's always been about physical playing football. And the best team hopefully wins. But, I mean, this craziness that they've gotten into. But I think their marketing, it's like we've seen with these woke companies. In the end, they almost always pay a price for being stupid. Okay? You never, I mean, it's just unbelievable what they've done to themselves, but they continue to do it. And the NFL is a prime example.
Yeah, here's the thing, is that the woke agenda and the LGBTQ, RSTUV, the whole deal, is a very small sliver of the American population. Now, I've mentioned this before, but Michael Jordan, who was a great basketball player, he started putting out Jordan sneakers, and they were all over him about, why don't you make political statements? He says, because Republicans buy sneakers too.
That's right.
And Carson, who would make jokes about any president or anybody, he would make political jokes, but they weren't all Republican or Democrat. They were really jokes about a situation that they could turn on a dime. Really, he didn't really have. I think he had Reagan on a couple of times, but he really didn't have political guests.
No,
he didn't.
And
he says, because I'm an entertainment show, and for all intents and purposes, sports, professional baseball, basketball, football, hockey, they are entertainment. And there's a great clip where somebody asked Elvis about the Vietnam protests, and he says, "Look, I'm just an entertainer. I don't have any." Now, people knew that he was a staunch conservative.
Yes.
Okay, and he knew Nixon, and he moved in very conservative circles, but he didn't talk about this stuff. And so, entertainment. Dolly Parton's done the same thing. She says, "I'm not going to talk about any of that kind of stuff," and she says, "I'm just an entertainer. I sing songs. I make people come, enjoy, forget for a while. That's what I do." And so, I think that we need to move back to where people have a little bit of relaxation time, because there's so much of this other. We now with the internet, we can't escape it.
No, you can't. And I mean, it's gotten to the point where people are really kind of fed up, and they're tuning it out. I mean, they're tuning it out. Say what you want, but that's why I am such a strong racing fan. Okay, because I do not see politics in racing. Now, doesn't mean that it's not there. Doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. But on a level like you see it in some of these other pro sports, no way. The people there go there because they love racing. They love the competition, one guy against another guy, and so on. So that's, to me, in the sports world, that's one of the last vestiges where you haven't seen politics step into the fray and muddy up the water with what the sport is all about.
There is racing politics. Because there's always the track favorite.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's the Dale Earnhardts of the world. Yeah. Okay.
But we're not talking about political politics. But like I said, any place you go, there's always some kind of politics there, and I get it.
Right. But you go, and I'll tell you the other thing. What pro sport do you see of any venue other than racing where they almost always have a chaplain or someone to say a prayer before the thing begins?
Yes.
You don't see it in any pro sport. Or they play the national anthem. Most people nowadays, some of the pro athletes, they could care less about the national anthem and want it, because a lot of those players aren't from this country to begin with. They come from somewhere else. But in racing, you go to a local track, you go even to a NASCAR track on the highest menu.
Yes.
All right. you'll see that they will have someone there that will say a prayer before the start of the event.
And
so
when I used to, back in the olden days when I was the track announcer at Auburndale Speedway, it fell to me to do the prayer, and we had a rather an approved prayer to guard the fans, to guard the drivers, all that.
Yes.
Have good competition, and in Jesus' name. And then we would play the national anthem. And so I had the Oak Ridge boys do a little version of the national anthem. I hit the cassette player and it would play it. But yes, and you'll find that you will not find any more patriotic fans on the face of the earth than short track racing fans.
Amen.
And
Amen.
I know, just between the two of us, whether it's a dirt track or an asphalt track,
Right.
okay?
I understand.
The fans, we love it, okay? And I think that stretches out. And I really have a rather hard spot in my heart for the people who want to take that away from us. Because, like you, I used to watch NFL, but now, as we begin to watch, I wonder sometimes how much of this has a suggested outcome, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's a possibility and so on. But I mean, I find that now that I have, I guess you could say, found YouTube. I mean, I find so much that I can watch on YouTube. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever you're interested in, whatever you have a question about, you can find it on the YouTube and so on. And I think that, to me, has given me a lot of opportunities to listen to a lot of different voices, see a lot of different things, learn some items and so on. You've got named people out there like Victor Davis Hansen, who does 1 or 2 or 3 shows a day.
A day?
I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it.
His are a lot shorter than ours.
Well, some of them are. I mean, he does an hour show with there's a lady and a guy that are on with him, and they do an hour show. But then he also does his own little things, okay, that are maybe about 10 minutes long. Mm-hmm. But then he also, you can go on his the Blade of Perseus is the name of his site.
The Blade of Perseus?
Blade of Perseus. And you can sign. Now, that's a paid thing, but you'll get all kinds of commentary from him on a daily basis, plus special things that he puts out on that. I don't know how the man, he's 71 years old, by the way. I don't know how the man has the energy and the time to do all this stuff, because he is so popular and so much in demand. I would love to get him to do a speech for the Tea Party.
Zoom, yeah.
But I'm like, on a scale of 1,000 people, I'm like 1,010. Okay,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so on.
yeah.
But because he's in so much in demand because of just sheer knowledge, absolute sheer knowledge. You could sit and talk to him for hours and days and learn so much.
You're like Alex Newman.
Oh yes, absolutely,
Absolutely,
yes.
So, but we're out of time for today. I tell you,
I can't believe it.
We've got more stuff to do tomorrow.
Yes.
So we like I say, Kathy Chamberlain come up later on in the week. But you've been listening to the latest edition of the Barry Foster Show, recorded at the Ridge Floor Studios in the city of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. Any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, things you'd like us to talk about, just put them in the comments below, or guests you'd like us to have on. You can also reach us at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com. Please check out the YouTube page here daily. We put up new programming Monday through Friday, and subscribe to our YouTube page and join our pages at the Barry Foster Show on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you would like to become a sponsor, just drop us a line at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com. As we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way, Barry Foster and John Larsen, and we'll see you next time.